I was diagnosed with gray zone lymphoma.
I was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Invasive ductal breast cancer.
B-cell lymphoma.
I was diagnosed with chronic lymphocytic leukemia.
Multiple myeloma.
Stage 4 breast cancer.
I was 52 years old.
I was 58 years old.
I was 69 years old.
I was 52 years old.
I was 53 when I was diagnosed.
I was 62 years old.
I was 29.
A group of oncologists in North America, primarily in the United States, but also in Canada, decided that they were going to figure out a way to funnel research money to Israel to help promote cancer research.
ICRF supported our lab in early days when I was just establishing my lab after I had returned from postdoctoral training at Harvard, and I joined Tel Aviv University. And at that time, it was very difficult for a new lab to get significant grants.
Israeli scientists are as talented as any group of investigators in the world. They've made major contributions to our understanding of cancer, as well as many other disease processes.
We fund all forms of the most promising kinds of cancer research, and our decision tree is strictly based upon the quality of the submission from the Israeli scientist.
I can tell you that this is one of the most rigorous evaluations I've seen, and funds are awarded to those individuals who we think have the talent to make those major discoveries.
So what makes the Israel Cancer Research Fund so unique? All of the money sent to Israel is directly used for research.
And they've come up with some pretty remarkable discoveries and have contributed to really several blockbuster drugs.
One of the most important discoveries came from the laboratories of Dr. Hershko and Chekanover. They made an observation that led to the awarding of a Nobel Prize. They discovered how proteins were degraded, and this led to the development of a novel therapeutic, Velcade, that has allowed us to advance the therapy of multiple myeloma and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and has resulted in us being able to cure patients and extend the life of thousands of patients.
ICRF stands out among all the other funding agencies in terms of ongoing, continuous support of cancer research in Israel. Numerous investigators, young investigators and established investigators over more than 4 decades.
These are breakthrough therapies. These are therapies that are really have fundamentally altered the way that cancer is treated.
The reality is that the discoveries made by those investigators will benefit all of mankind.
In Israel, they have an expression, it's called Tikkun Olam, it's heal the world. And it's a feeling of Jews to try to help everyone in the world and to make the world a better place.
I've been through 3 courses of treatment. I'm now starting a 4th, and at least 3 of those have involved drugs that weren't available 20 years ago.
The diagnosis was actually made by my son, who was a physician, emergency room doctor, who actually was trained in Israel. The medicines, if you will, the chemo that's kept me alive is it's Velcade. I take Velcade now every week.
I never thought that cancer was going to be a part of my narrative. When I heard those 3 words, it was incredibly devastating. It was hard to sort of get my head around the whole experience. For having such a rare cancer, I really owe, the medical team that saved my life a great deal, because everything that they were able to discover about my disease had to do with the fact that research played such a critical role in the last couple of years.
With my disease, medical research represents hope. It represents the medical condition that I'm in now, remission. Without the advancements of new drugs, targets, and therapies, it's entirely conceivable that my disease would have been much more difficult to manage.
I was so sick and I was bald and I had no eyelashes, and it's all, that's all hard. It all compounds on itself. But I got to wake up every day 5 years later, and I'm still here.
I can't imagine what going through this would be like without having a family and a support system that envelops you and heals you.
Paul was diagnosed with chronic lymphocytic leukemia
otherwise known as CLL, almost 7 years ago to the day. It has affected our family in ways that I think it would affect any family. Seeing Paul so healthy throughout this and so calm with this diagnosis has helped all of us.
From the very first moment we met, I felt we were friends, and I love his devotion to his family and his passion for important causes such as the ICRF.
The more I learned about ICRF, the more intrigued I became and the more excited I became about the organization and about what it was doing, so much so that I agreed to join the board in Chicago.
What Paul did for me was he demonstrated over years of fighting his disease, pursuing his life fully. I absorbed that, and I saw that as something that when it came my turn, unfortunately, I knew that this was something that I could do also.
Seeing Paul go through all he had to go through gave me a lot of strength and energy and optimism and hope. And when I was in chemotherapy, Paul even came and sat with me and told me everything was going to be all right.
Paul is a very strong and courageous individual, and he's an inspiration to all individuals who have to contend with leukemia or any form of cancer.
Paul Fox, in the 14 years, is my friend, and in the many years since his diagnosis, has never complained about his medical lot in life. Paul is deserving of the Israel Cancer Research Fund Man of Distinction because Paul is the finest man that I know.
By supporting ICRF and supporting their research in Israel, you get to support research in a country that has limitless possibilities. Without that kind of research, so many women just like me wouldn't get well.
Israel has a really special place in my heart. I was married in Israel this past May, and it was a pretty amazing experience. Israel has a lot to be proud of. They have some of the most world-renowned physicians and researchers. So I feel really grateful because I am the direct result of what research and technology advancements can do.
The economic impact that this program has in Israel itself. These are scientists who, instead of going to Europe or the US to be funded for their research efforts, stay in Israel and perform their research there.
People all over the world are benefiting from these breakthroughs. These are dollars that are incredibly well spent, and I'm happy to be a part of it.
In fact, we can see ICRF's fingerprints on every important discovery in the field of cancer research that has been made in Israel.
It's been 4 years now, and I've been able to enjoy my children, my family, my grandchildren. I'm very lucky. You know, the research that's being done in Israel because of this organization, it saved my life.
I can't tell you how excited I am about the prospect of the discoveries that will occur within the next few years, which are going to revolutionize the way we treat cancers. And I'm confident that the scientists from Israel will be in the forefront of making those advances.
Thank you, ICRF.
Thank you, ICRF.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for supporting ICRF.